Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this 135th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include photographer Lisa S. Johnson. We'll talk about her new book, Immortal Axes, Guitars That Rock. We'll also visit with actress and culinary expert Jessica Collins about the new series Acapulco, which is available now on Apple TV+. We'll also visit with actress and singer-songwriter Karen David. The Season 7 of Fear the Walking Dead will premiere October 17th on AMC. We'll also visit with author Joe Posnanski, has a new book, The Baseball 100. And our final guest will be author Joseph Weisberg. We'll talk about the new book, Russia Upside Down. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and of course, share with your friends. Now, Adele's new album was heavily influenced by her recent divorce, and she thinks it might inspire people to break up. Adele said in a Vogue UK interview, quote, "Can you imagine couples listening to the song about my divorce in the car? It would be so awkward. I think a lot of women are going to be like, I'm done." Now, her divorce didn't end on a bad note, though. She said that it wasn't just right for her anymore. She says, quote, "I didn't want to end up like a lot of other people I knew. I wasn't miserable, but I would have been miserable had I not put myself first." You know, we love rock music, we love guitars, and we're going to talk about an exciting book. It's Immortal Axes, Guitars That Rock. We've got Lisa S. Johnson with us today. And Lisa, I'm not sure if it's guitar or what we're going to talk about, but it's a privilege to visit with you.
Well, it's my privilege to be with you, truly. I'm grateful for the opportunity to chat about my work.
Now tell us, when did the photography of guitars and when did photography become a love of yours, I guess is where we should start with first off.
Yeah, I guess when I was about 23, living in Florida, I decided I had to go to college, and I put myself through photography school. And photography was something and guitars was something that my father had a passion for. And my parents were divorced when I was very young, and I was always trying to find ways to connect with my dad. And it turned out that photography and guitars was that avenue. And after I finished my college, I ended up getting a job with Eastman Kodak Company and landed in Memphis, Tennessee. And I started going to the Unity Church, and the guitar player at church asked me out on a date. And my father, growing up, told me I was not allowed to date musicians. So I called him up. I'm like, "Dad, I'm dating a musician. However, he is the guitar player at church, and he happens to own a vintage guitar store." He owned Rod and Hank's vintage guitar store in Memphis, and my dad was like, "That's different. He's not a touring musician." And he goes to church, and he owns a vintage guitar store. Even better, if he ever gets in a Gibson mandolin, I've always wanted one. And so 2 weeks later, he gets in this Gibson mandolin. I said, "How much? I want to get this for my dad as a present." And he said, "You can't afford it, but if you photograph some guitars for me I have to sell that I don't want to sell, I'll trade you for the mandolin." So I was done deal. I photographed these vintage guitars for him, and for the first time I fell in love with my photography. And soon after that, about 6 months after that, Kodak moved me to New York City, and I thought, I want to keep photographing guitars. I'm in New York. I may as well photograph famous ones. And it seeded the idea. I could do a book on this. This could be, something that is substantial. And Les Paul played every Monday night at the Iridium Room. So my dad used to play Les Paul and Mary Ford growing up. I didn't know anybody in New York, so I beelined it to the Iridium Room, where I felt like a comfortable scene, kind of like my dad was there in a way. And Les Paul let me photograph his guitar. And it started there, like in 1996.
Wow. And you talked about going to the Iridium, not even sure you were going to have the opportunity to get the picture, but what is you've gone any and everywhere to get these photos, and where do you find the inspiration for the different angles, the story that comes out of the photos? I mean, how are you able to pull those when sometimes you don't even know you're going to have the opportunity, right?
Right. I never know what I'm going to get. I show up on the scene. I have about 1 hour. I have to set up and tear down, including that hour time frame. So I don't have a whole lot of time. I let the guitars talk to me. You know, I bring a standard black velvet background. If I have nothing else to use, I'm very fast on my feet, and I've got a very quick eye, and so I'm targeting where I'm going to set this guitar up as I'm setting up my lights and pulling my camera gear out. If I'm lucky enough to be in the artist's home, then that makes it really easy because it's in their environment, and so I can place it somewhere, and I just get in there and I do it. And I'm definitely riding on adrenaline the whole time because it's a lot. I'm speaking to them as I'm shooting. I'm writing down notes about the instrument. I'm working with the guitar tech or with the artist. So it's pretty unbelievable. And sometimes, like, I don't even know what I got until I get home and I upload the images, and then I'm just like, oh my God, wow.
Now, are there some of the guitars that you've come across? I know I've been to some hallowed grounds, so, you know, the Ryman Auditorium, the Grand Ole Opry, and some of those great big venues. Do you get that same kind of feeling whenever you're coming into the room with an extra special guitar? Or there's some that you feel the energy when you walk in the room?
Oh, 100%. Of course, you know, when you walk into a venue, and even if it's during sound check or something, there's like that feeling in the room when you in the arena or the venue of this heightened energy, because this band that you love is going to be performing soon. Like, there's a frequency in the air. And then when they bring the guitars over, you know, the guitar techs really love these guitars too, you know. It's not just the artists. They love their jobs and they love working with these instruments, and there's a reverence there. So, you know, you pull them out and you lay them down on a velvet cloth or in the environment, and there's just this feeling and this vibration that comes off the guitar and that's in the room, and that feeds me when I'm doing the shoot too.
Now, do you still get butterflies? Are there certain opportunities that you still get the butterflies, the nerves really kick in more than others?
I'm pretty calm. You know, I'm a yogi, so I do a lot of breath work, and I'm pretty chill. I mean, in my early days, I used to have butterflies in my stomach, and now I don't. To be honest with you, I really don't. I'm grateful. I have this feeling of joy, like I'm just like super like happy to be where I am, and feeling grateful and just enjoying the moment, really.
That's right. And again, the book, the photography book, Immortal Axes, Guitars That Rock. Lisa, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find not only more info about that, but also all of your other work as well.
Yeah, you can go to my website, immortalaxes.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, which I don't send out too much, once every month or every other month. And there's a button you can click there that'll take you straight to Amazon.com to get the best price on the book. But it's available everywhere. It's being distributed by Chronicle Books. So there, you can't get any better distribution than Chronicle. And you'll be able to find it at your favorite bookstore as well.
All right. Well, again, Immortal Axes, Guitars That Rock. Go check it out. And again, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you sharing the story behind it, and hopefully we can catch up again.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
We do want to say thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes at 313 Falcon Road. You can give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've always got the latest hardware, and they've got the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma. They've got special savings on their Wacky Wednesdays and Saturdays. Check them out on Facebook for more information. Have you settled on a Halloween costume yet? If not, Google has a tool that's supposed to help you find the perfect one. It's called Costume Wizard. It debuted in 2019, but not a lot of people know about it. It's got 4 different options that let you dial in the type of costume you want to wear. First, you choose your desired spookiness level on a scale from 0 to 100. Then you choose between classic or modern costumes. There's also a button that lets you base everything on the top trending costumes in your area or the entire US. And at the bottom, there's another scale from 0 to 100 that lets you choose your desired uniqueness. If you mess with the settings, you'll get all kinds of ideas. For example, I checked up under classic costume with the spookiness and uniqueness set to 0, and it said that an angel is the perfect costume. Then we asked for a modern costume and set spookiness and uniqueness to 100, and it said to dress as a character from the movie Saw. You can check it out at frightgeist.withgoogle.com. Just look for Costume Wizard in the top left corner. Got a new series on Apple TV Plus that is available now. It is called Acapulco, and we've got Jessica Collins on with us. And first off, Jessica, appreciate you taking some time to be on the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, tell our listeners just a little bit about the new comedy series. Kind of goes back and forth back in the day a little bit. Acapulco back in the 80s. And Jessica, how much fun was it to transport yourself back in time, if you will?
Oh, my gosh. It was so much fun. I mean, I was around in 1984, but I was a kid. And so to be able to, this was much more exciting this time around. A lot of people don't know this, but because of COVID, we shot this during the pandemic. And so the cast and crew was bubbled at this resort. We actually lived at the resort together, away from our family and friends, and just huddled together. So we felt like we were living in 1984. When they weren't shooting at the pool, if it was our day off or the weekend, we were swimming in those pools, and we were, eating in the restaurants, and really, it wasn't a bad place to go to work. I'll tell you that for 3 months.
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to make the sacrifices, all right?
Somebody's got to make TV shows, yes.
And Jessica, what did you learn from pandemic shooting? How much different was it? And how have you had to adjust your craft a little bit to fit in accordingly?
Well, we all did. I mean, it was hardest on our crew, who, they have to wear, we all have to wear our mask all the time. We got a little break as actors when we're shooting, we got to take them off. But I mean, you get used to that, the mask and the shield. There's a whole new department on movie and TV sets, which is the COVID team. And they took great care of us. Everyone was fully committed to creating a safe work environment, and they kept us safe. I'm so grateful to them. It is a very different way of working. And, we have all these gorgeous extras, and they were in little bikinis and things, and the men were in the Speedos, and all of them, they would call like a warning before we'd start shooting, and they all had every costume had a little place for everyone to tuck their mask into, like their Speedo or their bikini. They had sewed in little pockets for them, and so it's a very interesting way to work. But somehow, with a lot of hard work, we got this show done, and and hopefully there won't be any masks in the shot.
No Starbucks cups or anything like that in the background. That's what you're saying.
Water bottles. Right, exactly.
Now, tell us a little bit. How close is Diane to the real Jessica, or was it a real stretch for you?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Well, Diane is she's based on very real people to me. She's a very broad character, as you'll all see, but she's based on women that I knew in my own life, from my own experiences. These women that when they walked in the room, it was their world from then on, but they also made you feel really important and special and needed and included. And, that's Diane. It is all about her. It is all about her world, but she adores her staff. They are her family, and, they're the most important thing in the world to her. And I think that you really do see that all through the series with her. She's just so proud of her staff. They're her children.
That's right. Now, being a culinarian as well, how did that play into your time management over pandemic? I mean, did you find some new culinary dishes and new inspirations, if you will?
Well, I found a whole new way of cooking because remember in the beginning when we couldn't get things like flour and, bananas and things, it was such a weird time. I actually have a blog where I put my recipes, and I had to change the whole thing. But we had a lot of fun, and I started making all these 3-ingredient recipes. And if you can't find tomatoes, you can use tomato juice, and if you can't find that, you can use tomato paste. All the ketchup. How we could make food with very limited resources. So I would say that was the biggest change to my cooking. And now some of those recipes, I'm like, yeah, why wasn't I cooking like this all the time? If you're out of something, you actually just look in your pantry. You've probably got what you need to make a meal.
That's right. And another pandemic thing was delving into the series on the streaming, the binging. Was there any particular binge that you really got stuck on during pandemic?
Oh, for sure. We've had time for a lot of them, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Just one. The one that I love so much is Ted Lasso. I think is just great. Like a lot of people, that's exactly what I needed during the pandemic. I really gravitated towards things that made me laugh, because the world is so heavy and still is so heavy. And that's what I hope our show Acapulco does as well. It's just 30 minutes of escapism. A lot of us haven't been able to travel in the last year and a half. And I hope people watch it and they feel like they're on vacation for a little moment in time.
That's right. And again, the new episodes premiering today on Apple TV Plus. Yes. Acapulco. Jessica, I want to make sure and let folks know more where they can find more about not only the series itself, but everything you've got going social media and the blog as well.
Great. Yes. You can find my blog and my recipes at jessicacollins.com. That's pretty easy. And you can definitely find me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'm on all of those as Jessica Collins as well.
There you go. Well, Jessica, looking forward to the new episodes, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me.
We do want to say thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes at 313 Falcon Road. You can give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've always got the latest hardware, and they've got the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma. They've got special savings on their Wacky Wednesdays and Saturdays. Check them out on Facebook for more information. Now, men and women fighting over the thermostat is an age-old problem, but the core issue might be older than we realized, like millions of years old. A team of scientists in Israel think they finally figured out why women always feel colder than men. There might be an evolutionary reason behind it. Researchers at Tel Aviv University say it's not just an issue for humans. A lot of animals like birds and bats deal with it too. For example, female birds tend to migrate to warmer climates, while male birds head for cooler ones when they're not mating. And with mammals, it's common to see males hanging out in the shade while females sit in the sun. Now the question is why? And now they think they have an answer. We may have evolved to feel temperature differently as a way of encouraging us to spend more time apart. When male and female birds migrate to different areas, it cuts down on competition for food. That way, the guys don't eat all the food their kids need to survive. And males can also be overly aggressive and dangerous to offspring, so that's another reason. Now, obviously, we're not birds, and deadbeat dads are a bad thing now, but humans and apes may have evolved to feel temperature differently too. Because before we got all civilized, it wasn't necessarily good for males to be around all the time. A new season of Fear the Walking Dead returns the 17th, coming up on AMC, and we've got Karen David with us. First off, Karen, it's a privilege to have a chance to visit with you.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show.
the new season getting underway, and how much are you excited to finally be able to talk about Fear the Walking Dead? Because I know you've got to be held quiet for a while, right?
Oh, all the time. That's the story of our lives on this show, because we want to keep that element of surprise, and it's very much like holding our breath for a while. So when we can talk a bit about it, we're so excited.
and your character, Grace, has had some really critical acclaim out of the latest episodes, and obviously as we start the new season, what should we expect from your character?
Well, we know when we left off in season 6 that Grace was very much in a very dark place, having lost her baby, and moving forward into season 7 in this new grim reality, which she knows all too well about. She's having to think about the safety of the people that she has come to care and love. And she also has to navigate through her grief. She is living very much moment to moment. And she knows the implications of this nuclear fallout and the impact that will have on everyone. And she tried to convince Morgan back at the end of season 6 that the afterlife was going to be far better than this new grim reality. But here we are in a much darker season 7, and continuing with the anthology style, you're very much going to see the lens focused on each of our characters and how we navigate through this apocalyptic radiated world. It's lots coming your way, and it is very much darker this season, and we're delving deeper into each of our characters' storylines. It's essentially like a mini film. You're going to see 16 mini films, and I'm in constant awe of what our incredibly hardworking crew and our casting creatives have come up with this season. So really excited for everyone to see what we've been up to.
So Karen, a lot of time art imitates reality, and the world's been darker, so Fear the Walking Dead is darker as well, right?
Well, certainly at the start of the pandemic, when we were seeing images on the news of empty shelves in the grocery stores, all of us were like, what is happening? There's very much, are we in the apocalypse? But there was a moment, I think it was like the first 2 months of the pandemic when it started, a lot of us, anxiety was high, understandably, because we just didn't know. We didn't understand what was happening. Certainly, we've never been through this. And trying to navigate through this new reality for all of us in the pandemic and the beginning stages of it. But we received an email from our showrunners, and there was a group of people who kind of adopted what we were doing on the show in season 5, where we left these care packages, these care boxes all around the apocalypse. Take what you need, leave what you don't. And they were adopting that. And it was so touching and meant so much to all of us. It was that bit of light that we so desperately needed at the beginning of the pandemic, and even now, just knowing that I feel that in times of trauma, grief, challenges, it's so wonderful to know that there are lots of good human beings out there in our world who are there to help each other and look out for each other. And the kindness of strangers to witness has just been so deeply moving, and kind of speaks to what we were talking about and setting up storyline-wise in season 5. So that was really special.
And Fear the Walking Dead, the following that it has. I mean, Karen, how blown away are you by the way the fans have gravitated and just taken hold of the characters and the storylines as well?
We're so blessed to have our fandom so incredibly supportive and so engaging. They participate in everything that we do, and they're along for the ride with us. I think every actor will speak, for their show that, we wouldn't be possible. Our show would not be possible if it wasn't for the love and the dedication from our fandom. And they certainly welcomed me in with open arms right from day one and embraced Grace and took her in. And I'm so grateful to be part of this universe.
The streaming has become so huge, especially over the last couple of years. Was there what has been your big stream or binge that you've had over the last year or so?
Oh my gosh, where do I even begin? It's trying to catch up on shows that you've always wanted to watch, and then also trying to find those heartfelt, inspiring shows that are going to just bring lightness. Which we all need during this pandemic. So everything from like Ted Lasso to I May Destroy You to now, I'll tell you what makes me so happy. I literally cannot stop smiling. Even just talking about it, it makes me smile. Is the Great British Bake Off is now back on the new season on Netflix. And every Friday, I will tune in and watch it, and I have this permanent cheesy grin, and I'm just so happy watching it. Just watching this wonderful community of people baking. It's so magical. So I'm very happy that's back on streaming now.
That is awesome. And again, returning on Sunday, October 17th, the 7th season of Fear the Walking Dead. And Karen, want to make sure if folks have want to find more information about the show, and then of course, everything you've got going on social media wise, where the best place to keep up is.
Oh, for those of you who are listening, please come say hello. I'm really proud of the amazing human beings that grace my social media pages. Very kind, lovely people, and they all talk amongst themselves on my page too, which is so wonderful. So come say hi. On Instagram, I'm at Karen David Official, and on Twitter, I'm at Karen David. I also have a Tea with Karen chat sessions where I chat with all my wonderful actor friends about their experiences and just navigating through the pandemic. So if you need some company over a cup of tea, you can log on to teawithkaren.com.
There you go. Well, again, Karen, it has been a privilege to visit with you. Looking forward to the new season of Fear the Walking Dead, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
I would love that so much. Thank you so.
At the height of the COVID-19 quarantines, people were always talking about how hard it was to keep their days of the week straight, since every day was the same. Well, in a new survey, 63% of people say they frequently have to ask what day it is, with 51% saying it's because their days are so similar, and 81% say that their days have become more repetitive during the last 18 months. So there is still some carryover for them quarantines. Not everyone is back to work in an office, and the ongoing precautions make it harder to be spontaneous. But it's not specific to being shut inside. 20% of people admit to regularly drifting through life without giving any thought to what they're actually doing. And 54% would be happy to experience the same day over and over, like in Groundhog Day, if it was their perfect day. Now, some of the daily routines that people say they do on autopilot include eating, showering, getting dressed, cooking, cleaning, and going for a walk. An instant New York Times bestseller debuted at number 5. It is The Baseball 100. And we're going to talk with Joe Posnanski about it. And first off, Joe, appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
Great to be here.
Now, when did you start the Baseball 100? I'll let you give our listeners just kind of a breakdown of the book and kind of where they first came into your heart, if you will.
Yeah, well, it is the Baseball 100 greatest players in baseball history, ranked in some sort of crazy order that I came up with, and it's been in my heart for a very long time. I mean, I've written some versions of this for more than a decade, and I would imagine that based on all of the stories in here, all of the things that I do, I mean, it's close to 900 pages. It's been a lifetime of being a baseball fan and thinking about the game and greatness and what I love about the game. So it really has been a lifetime pursuit, and here we are. We have it. It's out. It's been out for about a week. You mentioned It got on the New York Times bestseller list, which is not normally where you find 900-page baseball books. So it's been mind-blowing. The response has been incredible, and I think it speaks to a lot of people out there loving the game the way I do.
Joe, as you put the book out there and you name this the Baseball 100, what were your concerns to the printing day, for the release day, and the feedback that you were going to get?
Well, I don't think I had any concerns. What I knew was that people were going to scream at me for where I ranked players, right? Like there was no way around that. But I think that's good. I think that's what, part of what makes sports great, part of what makes baseball great is, part of what makes movies great and songs, is arguing about what's better and who's better and so on. So I knew that was going to come up, and it has on many occasions, and already, which I think it'll be, that'll be the next 10 years of my life. It'll be, people yelling at me for ranking Ken Griffey Jr. too low. So, which I think is fine. Like I say, I love it. I absolutely love it. And then I wouldn't call it a concern, but one of the things I really wanted and have been so gratified that's happened is you put out a list like this, a book like this, and people might start to think of it as, it's just clickbait, just somebody putting a list together. They're trying to rank the 100 players of people, whatever. And that's not what this book is at all, as its length and weight will suggest. It is very much a book that I wrote from the heart, and the stories are to me, the very essence of what baseball is and why baseball's great. And I got to say, nobody has responded that way. Nobody has responded like, it's just a list. It is certainly for me much more than just that.
And you talked about the 900 pages. As you delve into the stories of the Baseball 100 in your mind, is it the stories that are away from the field that really you think brings out the true essence of those individuals?
In many cases, yes. I mean, there certainly are, things that happen on the field that are part of the game that are very, very much a part of this book and very, very much a part of the history of the game. But yes, I mean, one of the themes, people have talked a lot about this already to me, which is great. One of the themes that recurs again and again and again in the book is the story of fathers and sons. And so many of these great players had, the most influential person in their lives were their fathers, whether it was a very tough father like Mickey Mantle's father, who basically drove him into the game and basically raised him to become a great major leaguer, or a guy like Chipper Jones' father who played the game when he was young and loved it and just sort of supported his son all the time, or Carlton Fisk's father, who was this very tough New Englander who his son never felt like he did enough to please or impress. So these are the kinds of stories that come up again and again, and I think they are at the heart of what makes baseball wonderful. And then, of course, there's lots and lots of stories on the field, teammates, great catches, great important home runs, and so on and so on and so on. So it's a blend of all those things, but yes, a lot of things from away from the field.
And again, the Baseball 100 by Joe Posnanski. I think I got the name right twice. I better cut it off at that. Not going to try a third time. But Joe, what is your expected takeaway from the fans, whether they be baseball lovers or just fans of books? What is the takeaway you're hoping?
Well, I have to say, I mean, I really am overwhelmed by the response already. It's been out a week, and I've heard from so many people, and there are probably three takeaways that have meant the most to me. One is people who say, this book has helped me fall in love with baseball again. I can't even describe that. That's what Tony DeCouple said on CBS this morning, and it was like mind blowing. He just said it out of nowhere. I mean, I just was thrilled. The second one is the connections. People telling me about taking this book and talking about it with their daughters or their sons or their mothers or their fathers, and that has been incredible to me, absolutely incredible. And I'm getting photos all the time now from people and their kids, or 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, reading the book, tearing through it. I mean, that's an incredible takeaway, to get. And then, the third takeaway are just people who just say, you know what, I'm a lifelong baseball fan, and I love the game, and I know the game, and I think you're wrong about where you ranked all these players, but I loved reading this. I loved getting, I think you get closer, and tell me things I didn't know, and share stories with me, and give me a perspective. Of course, that's every author wants that, right? You want to believe that you're making some sort of impact on people, and it's like I say, I really am humbled by the response. It's been amazing.
That's awesome. Be sure and check it out. The Baseball 100, Joe Posnanski. Want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find not only more info about the Baseball 100, but all the other writings that you've got going as well, sir.
Yeah, well, you can certainly come to my website at joeposnanski.com. That is where my writing is, and you can probably find out way more about me than you want. I'm also on Twitter at jposnanski, but I'm out there. I'm there to be found.
There you go. Well, Joe, it has been great to visit with you. Looking forward to delving more into the book, and hopefully we'll catch up again real soon.
I'd love that. Thank you.
We do want to say thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes at 313 Falcon Road. You can give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've always got the latest hardware, and they've got the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma. They've got special savings on their Wacky Wednesdays and Saturdays. Check them out on Facebook for more information. Since Halloween is coming up, some candy experts were asked about the differences between cheap candy, like the stuff we all grew up eating, and expensive candy like you'd see in specialty stores. Now, they say the differences mostly come down to three main things. Number one, the packaging. Fancy candy tends to come packaged in boxes with ribbons you need to unwrap. It's different than just tearing into a Snickers bar, obviously. Number two, the production process. Artisan candy is usually handmade in small batches, which takes a lot more time and effort compared to a mass-produced stuff. Now, there might also be better sourced ingredients or an emphasis on more sustainable practices. And number three, brand partnerships and marketing. Luxury candy retailers spend big bucks on brand partnerships and collaborations with celebrities, like Sugarfina's gummy bears that are made from Dom Perignon champagne. But ultimately, according to one expert, sugar is sugar, and things like gummy bears and jelly beans are made up almost entirely of sugar. So the calories and nutrition facts would be similar no matter how expensive it was. Got a former CIA officer, you might know him as the creator of the hit TV series The Americans, got a new book to talk about, interested to talk about this one, Russia Upside Down. We've got Joseph Weisberg with us today. And first off, Joe, I sure appreciate you taking the time, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Joe, tell us Russia Upside Down, the timeliness of this, and when did you start noticing that you really had to put the thoughts down and share these with others around you as well?
Well, there's a very specific answer to that, to tell the truth. My whole life I'd written fiction and made stories up and wrote TV, which was made up also. And then a couple of years after The Americans came out, a friend of mine who worked at the CIA asked me to come give a speech there. And I said, great, because I realized while making up all these stories, I come to a lot of ideas and opinions about the Soviet Union, its history and politics, and even more importantly, how we're dealing with Russia today. So I thought coming and saying all that stuff at the CIA would be great. It turns out there was a misunderstanding. He wanted me to talk about counterintelligence, not the Soviet Union. So I never gave the speech. And I felt so disappointed that I thought, I'm going to put all those ideas in a book.
Now, the research for that, I mean, what was the eye-opening part about it that really stuck out to you that you knew you had to share?
I had a kind of a moment. I was probably in my mid-30s, and a lot of books were coming out from former KGB officers who never could have written books or talked about anything like that during the Soviet era. But now the Soviet Union was gone, they could. And I read one by a guy named Viktor Cherkashin, who had worked his whole career at the KGB and been a very important officer there, had run a lot of spies, important spies like Ames and Hansen. And the book was completely shocking to me because I had this view that anyone who worked at the KGB was essentially like a villain and, an instrument of this evil empire. And when I read the book, it was almost the opposite. This guy seemed so much like me and my friends at the CIA. He had the same way of looking at the world. I mean, different views on who was right and who was wrong, but the same sort of perspectives. Other than that, he was very likable. His friends were all sort of social guys, which is also part of what the CIA hires for. And he loved his job and loved and believed in his country. And I thought, I have really had this, for lack of a better way to say it, upside down. And I started to rethink everything I'd really ever believed about it. And it was a pretty short path from there to thinking I wanted to share this.
What do you think is going to take for the relationship to grow the way you see it, Joe? I mean, what do we as Americans have to do, and what boundaries do we have to take down, I guess, is the real question.
I think the most important thing is we sort of get away from this idea that we are the good guys and they are the bad guys, that we are virtuous and they are evil, that we are wonderful, beautiful lovers of democracy and all they care about is spreading authoritarianism. I understand where that came from because I used to think exactly like that. But I understand now that it was very black and white thinking. It was just too one-dimensional. Both our countries are much more complex than that. We both have good sides and bad sides. We both have done some good things and bad things out in the world. We both have virtues and incredibly serious problems at home. And I think that if we can understand that we've sort of nationally done this thing where we've taken everything wrong and bad about ourselves and kind of projected it onto them to make them the bad guys. If we can get away from that, then I think we can break out of the conflict because we sort of need the conflict right now to keep thinking of ourselves as so good.
And Joe, how hard was it to stay apolitical in such a political landscape of a story, if you will?
That's a great question. It was a constant challenge. I felt that I wasn't so interested in liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican in a way because the whole issue that I'd grown up on, which was the Cold War and that I was writing about and its current stages now with Russia, those have been weirdly nonpartisan. Generally speaking, both sides of the aisle agreed that the Soviet Union was terrible and needed to be fought. And both sides of the aisle are united in wanting to sort of level sanctions and do all kinds of things to fight back against Russia. So it was, in a way, it wasn't that hard not to get pulled into that in those parts of the book where I was discussing those things.
For the political side of things to be worked out with the different policies between Russia and the U.S., what is it going to take on the political side to mend those relations?
I'd like to see us make some unilateral moves to de-escalate the conflict. So, for example, we have all these sanctions that we've leveled against Russia. I mean, a lot of them. And they are really, it's an attack on their economy. And I think we should try just lifting the sanctions. Now, I can't tell you what will happen if we do that. Maybe nothing will happen. But I also think there's a possibility that there would be a response, that there would be some effort on Russia's part to pull back on some of their attacks on us. I think there is a reasonable possibility that they would also be interested in de-escalating this conflict. By the way, I wouldn't mind if they took the first step either, but it's not really up to me or up to us to say what they should do. The only thing we have control of is our own actions and our own foreign policy.
That's right. And again, the book, Russia Upside Down. Joseph Weisberg, I want to make sure and let folks know not only where they can find more info about the book, but your other writings and social media as well, sir.
Well, the book, Russia Upside Down, should be in bookstores, on the internet, Amazon, all those places. Just, Google it and you'll find it pretty easily. The TV show, The Americans, is streaming on Amazon. And everybody should take a look. It's 6 seasons worth of stuff. So if you like it, you got a lot there. And my other 2 books are An Ordinary Spy and 10th Grade. If you want to get away from the politics and into just some humor about growing up as a teenager, try 10th Grade.
There you go. Well, Joe, again, thank you so much for your time and wish you a great rest of your week. Looking forward to spending some more time with the book myself, sir.
Thank you, Cameron. It was really nice talking to you.
Well, thanks again for joining us for this 135th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, maybe anything else you'd like to know, you can hit me up on the contact page at gqwithcam.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at GQWithCam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, visit our merch store where we've got hoodies, shirts, tumblers, mugs, stickers, and more. That's gqwithcam.com/shop. If you have a special guest idea, email me gqwithcam@gmail.com. Thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes at 313 Falcon Road. You can give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. And thanks to our good friend Brandon Allen, he came up with our theme music, and we're going to let him play us out. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday.